Dating and courtship in Europe during the Middle Ages were significantly different from modern practices. Influenced by social hierarchies, religious doctrines, and economic considerations, relationships were formal and often devoid of the romantic ideals seen today. The Middle Ages, spanning roughly from the 5th to the late 15th century, were characterized by a rigid social structure and the pervasive influence of the Church. During this period, dating, as understood in contemporary terms, did not exist. Instead, courtship was a structured process aimed at ensuring social stability, economic prosperity, and the continuation of familial lines. The Church wielded significant influence over all aspects of life, including marriage and courtship. Marriages were considered sacred unions, and the Church's teachings emphasized the importance of marriage for procreation and the avoidance of sin. Marital arrangements were often accompanied by religious ceremonies and blessings, reinforcing the Church's role in legitimizing and sanctifying unions. The Church also set moral guidelines for behavior, condemning extramarital relations and promoting chastity. The concept of courtly love, which emerged in the later medieval period, introduced a more romanticized view of love, but still operated within the constraints of social norms and religious doctrines. Social class played a pivotal role in medieval courtship. Nobility and royalty had more formalized and strategic approaches to marriage, often using unions as tools for political alliances and the consolidation of power. For the lower classes, marriage was still a significant institution, but the processes and considerations differed, focusing more on economic stability and social compatibility. In medieval Europe, marriages were often arranged by families with little input from the individuals involved. These arrangements were typically made with considerations of land, wealth, and alliances. The betrothal, a formal engagement, was a binding agreement that could only be broken under specific circumstances. Parents or guardians negotiated marriage contracts which included dowries, the transfer of property or wealth from the bride's family to the groom. The dowry system underscored the economic aspects of marriage, reflecting the importance of financial stability in marital unions. Despite the prevalence of arranged marriages, the concept of courtly love introduced a different dimension to medieval courtship. Originating in the courts of Provence in the 12th century, courtly love was an idealized and often extramarital form of affection that celebrated chivalry and romantic devotion. Troubadours and poets celebrated this form of love in their works, depicting knights who performed noble deeds to win the favor of their ladies. Courtly love was largely an aristocratic practice and did not typically lead to marriage. Instead, it was a way for nobles to express admiration and form bonds that were socially acceptable within the confines of their class and societal expectations. Medieval courtship was rich with rituals and symbolism. Tokens of affection, such as rings, gloves, or embroidered garments, were exchanged as symbols of commitment and affection. Public displays of courtship, such as jousting tournaments and feasts, allowed nobles to demonstrate their chivalric virtues and courtly manners. The practice of wooing involved various gestures and acts to impress a potential partner. These could include poetry, music, and acts of bravery or generosity. Such displays were crucial in demonstrating one's suitability as a partner, both in terms of social standing and personal qualities. Medieval weddings were significant social events that often involved elaborate ceremonies and feasts. The Church officiated the wedding, emphasizing the sacred nature of the union. Vows were exchanged, and the couple received a blessing to sanctify their marriage. The banns of marriage was a practice where the impending marriage was announced publicly in the church for 3 consecutive Sundays. This allowed for any objections to be raised and ensured that the marriage was consensual and lawful. Bridal traditions varied across regions and social classes. Noble brides often wore elaborate gowns and jewelry, symbolizing their family's wealth and status. The concept of the bridal dowry was central to the marriage contract, serving as a form of economic security for the bride and her future household. Wedding feasts were grand affairs, especially among the nobility. These celebrations included music, dancing, and feasting, reflecting the social and economic status of the families involved. For peasants, weddings were simpler but still significant community events, emphasizing the importance of social bonds and mutual support. Economic considerations heavily influenced medieval courtship and marriage. For the lower classes, the ability to support a family was a crucial factor in marriage decisions. Peasants often married later in life compared to the nobility. as they needed to establish a stable livelihood before taking on the responsibilities of a family. The Black Death, which swept through Europe in the 14th century, had a profound impact on marriage practices. The drastic reduction in population led to shifts in economic power and social structures, altering the dynamics of courtship and marriage. In some cases, this led to more opportunities for individuals to choose their partners, as economic and social constraints loosened. Medieval marriage was also subject to legal regulations. Canon law governed many aspects of marriage, including issues of consent, age, and consanguinity, the degree of blood relation. The Church required mutual consent for a valid marriage, although parental influence was still strong, especially among the nobility. Annulments and divorces were rare but possible under certain circumstances, such as proven cases of impotence, consanguinity, or prior existing vows of celibacy. The process for annulment was complex and often required significant influence and resources. Courtship and marriage in medieval Europe were complex processes deeply rooted in social, economic, and religious contexts. While romantic love played a role, particularly through the ideals of courtly love, the primary considerations were often pragmatic. Marriages served to secure alliances, consolidate wealth, and ensure social stability. The rituals and customs surrounding courtship and marriage reflected the values and structures of medieval society, from arranged marriages and dowries to the influence of the Church and the concept of courtly love. These practices highlight the intricate interplay between personal relationships and broader societal forces. Understanding medieval courtship provides valuable insights into the historical development of social and cultural norms regarding relationships. It also offers a window into the ways in which people navigated the challenges and expectations of their time to form bonds that were both personally meaningful and socially significant.